to the computer. Okay. See, Jang, just seeing you as a reminder is fantastic. So, yes, we are going to be going through a number of subjects. When it comes to React, you're putting your feet into the shallow end of the pool so far. Like you're feeling the temperature of the shallow end before you decide to jump in there. Some of these are definitely either wear your water wings or know how to swim type subjects, but they're all real subjects. I'm actually using all of these in my my other life. So let me get started. All right. So I am starting from scratch, like I like to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new app. So I ran into a problem when I was practicing this morning. And if you run into the problem, this is how to fix it. So normally I would just do npx create React app. But for some reason I was having trouble. So I'm just going to put at latest, and that's how I fixed it this morning. Normally you don't have to put at latest, but let's get that started. Okay. So how overall, what's everybody's general feeling about React? Confusing, like, are you beginning to like it? Do you like it more than, say, templates in using, what was it, ERB or the templates in Node?
Even though I find it confusing, I find it less difficult, or like less, maybe just as challenging, but like almost not even as challenging as everything before. And I don't know why, but I feel like this is something that I could get my brain around eventually.
Yeah. So React, it's very popular. Well, I believe it's the #1 web framework right at the moment and has been for a number of years. I'm a big fan. I've been, so this past job, I've been using it exclusively for front-end work, and it is pretty cool. So let me go into there and open up my code editor. All right. And let's get her started. No, not that, sorry. No, not that either. I remember what to do. Okay, I'm gonna open up a terminal and just run yarn start. And we will get what we are all very familiar with by now, which is a spinning React logo. So I'm just going to move that over there. Okay. So we know how to do a number of things in React so far. We know about props, we know about state. We may not be completely comfortable with them, but we understand that they are important for using React. But there are a number of other bits that aren't really part of React itself, but are important, or to use either these or something like these for extending it. So the first thing I want to show you is the React router. So let me just come in here. And I am just going to delete everything. And I'm just going to put in that. The React fragment. So to say, hello nurse, because that's my favorite blah or phrase that means nothing. Okay, so super, we've got that. I'm going to not use the CSS, and also I'm not use this CSS either. I am going to go without CSS today. Little bit scary. Okay, awesome. So now I've got hello nurse. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an application that has what we call front-end routing. We know how to create different routes in a backend. With Node, we can create our app.get and put different endpoints and point them at different resources. But routing also belongs in the front end of apps. So let me show you how I do it. So the first thing I need to do is I need to install a package. And let me just start another terminal. Great. And I'm going to say npm install react router -dom. Now, the first thing that you need to know is that this particular package is not part of React directly. It's not written by the same people as who do React, but this is the most widely used package for doing routing. And also the name, React Router DOM. It's called React Router DOM because there is also a React router for, say, using creating front-end apps, or sorry, not front-end app, mobile apps. So routing can exist in many different types of apps. React is not just React Native, thank you. Whoever mentally told me that, because it took me a moment to remember. All right, so I'm going to install that package. Done. All right, let's do the import. So what do I import? So I'm going to import no, not as browser router, just as router from router DOM. There we go. Okay, this syntax. Am I confusing anybody? I'm saying import the browser router function or method, but call it router. And that's because browser router is too much to type. I could quite as easily just use browser router, but this is pretty common and actually is in the documentation. So I'm going to bring that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace hello nurse with router. And you got to put it in brackets. Like that, like this. There. Okay, so I've got this router element. What's this router element? Does it render anything? And the answer is no, it doesn't render anything. Everything in React is a component. So this is a component, and all it does is it allows us to steer between different pages. So let's create a couple of pages that we can route to. So the first page I want to create is going to be called nurse.jsx. And the second one I am going to call doctor.jsx. Okay, so let's go into nurse first, and I'm going to put in my default stuff. I don't need anything else in this component for now. So let's do the same thing for the doctor. Snippets save your life. All right, so what I want to do is I want to, yes?
I'm sorry, could I ask you what that, what you just did to just
Okay,
populate that page really quick?
That's a snippet. So I make way too many typos to have to type everything every time. So I've actually got, it's actually a package that I've installed called, what is it? I think it's the ES7. There we go. This one.
Yes, 7, okay.
Yeah, the ES7 Plus React Redux React Native snippets.
I've been following like tutorials on separate websites, and it's like the third time I see that, and it's just typed. No one ever mentions it. It's like,
well, stop me if I do something like that you want to know more about. I
awesome,
forgot what you don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, super. So I've created a couple of components, and what I'm going to do, or what I want to have happen, is I want to go to one of those components or the other component, but I only either or. And I want to do it with routing. I want to go to the nurse component when I go to /nurse. And I want to go to the doctor component when I say /doctor. And oh, yeah, I didn't save this. This is why everything is showing up. All right, super. So I've imported the router. Everything in the app needs to live within the router, or at least every page that you want to have changed. So let's put in, just for now, I'm going to put in, or import, I should say, the two components. Import first, and I'm going to import doctor. There we go. I love how VS Code is so smart and it knows what I was going to type. All right. So I'm importing those. So what I want to do is I want to create a way of going from one to the other. And the easiest way for me to do that is to pull in another bit of the React router called routes. And I also need a singular route. So let's get this set up. Now I'll show you why this is important. This might look like I'm being redundant, but it's actually needed. Okay, and I've got the routes, and I've got two individual routes. I'm going to use the route component. I'm going to use the route component twice. What this allows me to do is to now put in where I want to go. So for the first one, I want to have it create a path. And the path is going to equal to /nurse. And I also have to create, or what element am I going to attach that to? So this is a little bit odd, but and oh, wait. All right. One last time with feeling. Okay, so I've set out an individual route for nurse. Notice that I say element and then I put the JSX for nurse. Remember that this JSX isn't HTML. It is another syntax for writing react.create element. Okay, and I'm going to just copy this for the doctor. Here. Just say. Okay. All right, so now I have two individual routes. First of all, hey, doctor's already shown up over here. What if I change it to nurse? Nurse shows up. So the right component is showing up when I route to the correct location. But there's something a little bit odd. Actually writing in the URL bar, the URL I want to go to is very 1993. Nobody wants to do that anymore. Everybody wants to have nice links. So luckily, we have some links. And what I'm going to do, I have to put them inside the router, but outside the routes element. So I'm just going to create a link here. And it's 2 equals slash nurse. And do the same thing for the doctor. So, all right, it's not styled, but I have 2 links up here. So when I click on the nurse page, I go to slash nurse. When I click on the doctor page, I go to slash doctor. And I should, even though it works, I should lowercase those. Has should always be all lowercase. So now I have a multi-page site. How cool is that? And it only took me, what, 10 minutes? This is great.
Hey,
Normally,
John,
yeah,
sorry
Sean,
to interrupt.
go
Is
for
this,
it.
because I didn't see the page reload, so is this kind of similar to an Ajax
This is,
sort of
it's-
situation?
well, this is a single, React creates single page apps.
Yeah,
So this is, it's the same page.
but it's creating a different route.
It's
Yeah,
creating a route within the page, but
That's
it's
amazing.
still the same page. So even though this looks like I'm going to a different HTML document, I'm not. I'm always on the same HTML document. If you come over here to the public folder, you actually see this index.html, and this is the only HTML document in the entire project.
no, that's awesome. This is great for like navigation and setting up more layers. I'll be using this.
Okay.
Thank you. That's awesome.
So the router goes very, very deep. You can do things like pass in, for instance. Come on, and go back to the doctor page. Nurse page. Did I break something? There we go. Nurse page, doctor page. You can pass in information here. So I could put in an ID. Say I have a list of doctors and I want to go to doctor number 1. I can actually put a 1 here and that will reflect. I can do a lookup on, say, a database for doctor number 1 and pull in that information and populate an element or a component with that. Let me steer you to the right documentation. So React Router has a great site, and normally I love the docs. If you come here and click on read the docs, that's great, except that these are the old docs. Or sorry, these are the new docs. Huh, interesting. Yeah, this is the old docs, which were also great. So now we're at the new docs. This is where you need to go in order to work, to read up on how to do everything. And you can add things like authentication. So you're only loading information for pages that people need to access. So when I connect to Facebook, for instance, not that I do, but if I connected to Facebook, I would only get my Facebook data and not anyone else's Facebook data sent to me. All right. So that is the router in a nutshell. Any other questions about the router? Anjali, it looked like you were raising your hand for a second there. I realized you were just moving your camera though. So, okay, that's fine. That's good. The router does go very deep. And one class, normally this is something that I'm used to spending an entire 2-hour lecture on. And I had one class where I had to go over it 5 times in their first week. But here I'm just skimming the surface and I'm showing you the easy parts. So this is the easy part. Okay. So just so I'm sure that everybody understands what's going on, what's appearing here within these 2 routes, the opening routes and the closing routes? What actually shows up on the page? Let me go back to the page. Todd.
So wouldn't that just be creating the in the URL, like the /doctor/nurse?
Yeah.
That's creating like a separate route, as opposed to the section up above. Those are creating the links, which are just hyperlinks. Yep. on the actual the string for nurse and doctor.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. All right. So what next? I know we are going to go into let's go into context. All right. So for context, I need to create another element. So let me do that quickly. So I'm going to call this one interns.jsx. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to blow TJ's mind by typing RFCE, and it's going to put everything for the interns. So in this element, I want to list all of the interns, but I want to put it under the doctor component. So I'm not going to import this into app. I'm instead going to come over to doctor. I'm going to import it. All right. And I'm going to render it right here. Okay. And I've got to put it in a React fragment because it doesn't like it when you don't enclose everything into the single. There we go. So we've got interns live under the doctor. And so let's just make sure that we indeed, oh, right, /1 doesn't do anything. So let's go to doctor. Let's go to nurse. Did I break something? Let me go back to app.js. /doctor element doctor. Okay. I'll tell you what. Oh. No, it's running. Let's do this one more time with feeling. And there we go. Doctor page. Doctor page is not showing up. So I broke something on the doctor page. Let's do some live troubleshooting. So here, element type is invalid, blah, blah, blah. In the doctor component, so there's a problem in the doctor component. Check your code at Dr.JSX9. Great, let's go to Dr.JSX line 9, and it's saying it doesn't like interns. Let's go to the interns, and you know what I'm doing? I didn't save it. I bet you that's all it is. There, that's all it was. I didn't save my interns page. Okay, so I've got the doctor page and I've got the interns page. Instead of delivering the word interns, I actually want to add a list of people. So the way I'm going to get that is I am going to go back up to my app.js. I'm just going to create outside of this app an array. So and we'll have Joe and Monica and Sally. Okay, so I've got this data. I'm not putting it into state, but I do have it. It's outside of the app. But what I am going to do is I'm going to pass this information down to the doctor element. And I'm going to do that using the standard method, which is props. So I'm going to say interns equals intern array. Okay, so now if I come to the doctor element, how do I access the intern array from this element? Anyone?
Props.intern.
You got it. So first thing I have to do is put props. And then I am going to say interns because I want to pass this down another level. So interns equals props dot interns. Okay. I'll just go back up to the app because I noticed I didn't save it. Interns. Okay, so finally I'm going to get to the interns and the same thing here. Props, and let's actually map through that array. So props dot interns dot map, and say intern. Then I want you to create for me a p tag that has the name intern. Right, and I'm missing. Hold on. Oh, same problem. So let's do that. Open, open, close. Yep. I do need to have that there. Great. And it works. So, and I'm sure that some of you have run into this problem, and I'm going to call it a problem. The problem is props drilling. Because I have to send this data from the app to the doctor, to the interns, I have to pass the props a couple of times. Doing it twice, that's not so bad, but you can imagine what it'd be like if you had 20 layers that you needed to pass it down. And that's actually fairly common, to have a lot of components that you need to send props through. So there's a way around this. And the way that we use to get around this is called context. Context is relatively new in the ecosystem. So what I'm going to do is create a specific context in intern, we'll call it intern context. It too is going to live outside of the components. So you have to create a context outside of a component, but then you can access the contents of the context from any component inside the app. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to say create context. And what you do is you set, it's very much like set state or use state. So I'm going to just set its initial value to intern array. All right. So create context needs to be imported from React. There we go. Everything's back to normal. And how do I use that? So what I need to do is, let me just see. Right. So I've created the context here. And so where do I need it? I need it inside the interns. Okay, so if I come to the interns, I'm going to remove props.interns.map. I'm going to remove this props. So it's now no longer receiving the props from the doctor element. Matter of fact, we will go and delete that as well. Okay, so how do I get the interns? So what I can do here is I can say, I have to bring in the use context. From React, and interns is not defined. So here inside this component, I just have to say const interns equals use context intern context. So I do need to right. I have to export the context and import it. So let me show you how that works. If I come back to here, I can export multiple things. And what doesn't it like? All right. There we go. And then I have to come over to interns and import it. And I do that by saying, cannot find the file at JS. Hold on. Oh, right, because it's capital A. And my interns are showing up, even though I deleted the props from the doctor. And just to prove to you that it works, I'm going to add an intern. I couldn't help myself. Couldn't help myself, Holly. So I've added NitzerEb, and now NitzerEb is showing up there. So what I've done is I've created a place where I can put my data. I don't have to drill down multiple levels in my React app. In this case, it's a little bit, I wouldn't do this for an app this small. However, this does explain how all of that does work, right? So I can create a context. I can add to the context. Use context also allows you to change it. So I can change it from a child component and send it back up to where the context lives. Normally, I would put this context actually in its own file and just export it. All right. Okay.
Can you just show where you imported it again, please?
Sure. So I'm exporting it from here in the app.js, and I've skipped over Doctor and I've come to interns.jsx, and I'm importing it. When you're importing a non-default export, you have to put it within curlies. So I'm exporting two different things from the app.js. In a real app, I would actually create a file for the context and put it in there. How cool is that? Who's going to use context in their next React project?
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Can you please open doctor.jsx one more time, please?
Certainly.
So you removed props from here,
Yep.
right?
That's
Okay.
right. That's right. So the doctor doesn't know anything about the interns. Actually, I think that's probably what doctors are like in real life as well. But I don't mean to slag doctors. They've had a rough couple of years. But I bypassed the doctor to send the information directly to the interns component. And I don't have to drill.
Can we send it up as well that way?
So sending it up would mean you'd have to alter the code, which is absolutely possible. Let me just. So what you can do.
I guess what I should ask is, would you send it up that way?
Yes, yes, I would. Yes, I would. Because again, if I did it the standard React way, I'd have to pass a function down several different layers. Again, a couple of layers, that's not a big deal. 20 layers, that's a big deal. You're going to have a lot of duplicated code. And you can actually update here where, let me see if I've got. This is code from an actual real life project where I'm using context. And I have this use context, and what I can do is I can bring in set data and set file name. So what set data and set file name? Those look kind of familiar. Well, these live, where do they live? Let me find it. There we go. Right, in this component, the import component. So this is actually use state. So this is a function that I use to change the state, and I'm passing that down with the context. You see, says right here, import context.provider. This is a way for me to add things to the context. And this is how I would do that in real life. This is how I do it in real life. This is real code that I got paid to write. Maybe one day the client will use it. But that's how you use context. I'm shallow. I'm hitting these subjects at a very shallow level. There's a lot more to all of this. And if we want to learn about that, the hooks API reference inside the React docs is pretty good. You'll notice that it's considered a basic hook as opposed to the advanced ones. And this use context tells you how to use it. And you see right here, theme context.provider, we can then read that information. I did it another way. Here we've got the create context, and now we can consume it in different locations. So we've got a context consumer, which is what's looking for the information, and a context provider, which is setting the information. How awesome. Wow, we're going through this faster than I thought, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. Before I go any further, is there anything, any subject in React that you would like for me to review with you or to go over, something that you've heard of that we've not covered yet?
Just a random question, I guess, since we have a bit of time.
Go for it.
Have you heard about styled components?
Yes, I have. And it's on my list of things to talk about today.
Okay,
So-
because yeah, I'm using it myself, but I had someone look over the code and they were like not sure about it, so I wasn't sure if it was bad practice, good practice. So I wanted to get your thoughts if you have them.
So thoughts. So my company, we use style components. Personally, I'm on the fence about them. It does allow you to do some pretty cool things. So let me show you style components since you brought it up.
Sure, and maybe not everyone knows about it, so
Yeah.
we could give a bit of context.
So here's style components. Style components is a way of doing, here we go. Style components is a way of styling your components within Red Bull. Huh, interesting. Inside a React app. And it might seem like, why would I want to do it this way, right? And it also uses this weird syntax, style.a, and then what's that doing there? What's that? So did I break something? I did. There we go. Didn't realize I could break it. And this is what we call a, what is a string literal, I believe. Let me look up my notes. I believe it's a string literal. I may have closed my, here we go. Yeah, string literal. And what a string literal is a, oh, here, let me show you the documentation actually. So this is a real thing in JavaScript. This is the Mozilla Developer Network for template literals. There we go. And if we come all the way down here, where is it? I saw it earlier. So we can create strings with backticks. We're all familiar with that. We can interpolate inside those with regular JavaScript expressions. But then it is, how do we return that? And what a string literal is a, you can think of it as sort of like a function or a different way of passing information into a function. So we've got this function that they've created here. This is just a standard function. It's got strings and keys. And what happens when you create one of these is all of the different parts of the string are separated into an array. So here we have, look at this. I'm name and I'm almost age years old. So the first part of the function is this an array with I'm almost space years old. So it's got 3 entries in that array. And you can actually see they've done it a different way down here. This is exactly the same syntax or the same way of doing it. This and this are completely interchangeable. So it comes with an array and then all of the variables that you're inserting into the array. So it's the only time I've ever seen this particular feature of JavaScript used is within style components. And it's kind of fun dealing with style components. So let me show you how we get that set up. I'm gonna move that back over here. So first thing I need to do is I need to import it or npm install it. Just import here. So I'm going to come to the app.js here. Perfect. And I'm going to import styled from styled components. Okay, so now that I've got this style, what can I do with it? So let's have a look at these links up here. So I want to change the CSS for those links because these don't look very good. So let's change it. Let's put some margin between the two. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to create and I'm just going to put it down here. Styled link equals styled. And then I have to pass in the link. And this is where I put my template literal. Okay. And inside here, I'm just going to put margin 20px. What does a margin of 20px do?
Right and left margin will be 20.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And can't resolve style components in, oh, helps if I actually finish importing it. All right, and didn't work for me last time either. How did I, let me just have a look. Tell you what, let me just stop and restart the app. No, still not giving me my
Would you not have to return the style, that new variable that you created, the styled link variable as?
Yeah, normally you would. In this case, you don't actually have to. So we're creating the style. I tell you what, we'll do something a little simpler because styling other components is a little bit meta. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to surround all of this with a div. And I'm going to call this div outer container. All right. So now I've got this outer container. So now I can actually come down here and I could say outer container equals styled. And instead of doing it like that, I say dot div. And I tell you what, let's give it a background. My second favorite CSS color. And I type real CSS down here. Okay. And you'll see, oh, hey, it went all green in the background. So this does work. So this is a style component. And I'll tell you what, let's make the height 100 VH. What does a height of 100 VH do, Anjali?
I was gonna ask you, what is VH first of all?
That's a fair question. Anyone else?
Viewport height.
Yeah, viewport height. There we go. So I've made it 100% of the height. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of a it's actually going beyond 100%, and that's because of the margin that is normally set on the body by default. But here we go. So now we've got this. We can also inside here do like we did with Sass. We can embed rules inside here. So I could say inside any A link inside the div, the outer container div, I want to give that a margin of 0.20px. There we go. That worked. All right. So this is a way of doing CSS. Some of my concerns about this is that none of my CSS helpers work inside here, so I have to remember the rules. As opposed, I get lazy. VS Code helps me out. What do I put? Margin something? Oh yeah, it tells me exactly what I need to put in. So margin 0.20px. That's great. So, and also, let me show you. Another thing that gives me concerns is when I inspect the page. Here, oh yeah. Should have put in the key prop, but we'll fix that in a moment. Come down to components, you'll notice that I've got all of this style div and then browser router, navigation provider. Like I'm starting to get a lot of components that I haven't written. And not to scare you, but let me show you this. This one is one I am working on, and look at that. It's crazy, and it gets worse than that. So finding what it is you're actually looking for. Luckily, there is a search field up here, but look at all of these components. This is crazy. I'm all for components, but I don't need that many. However, a lot of people like it. You can actually put things in here. So for instance, let's say I am going to create, let's create a variable outside here. And we'll say const menu item margin equals 20. Then I can come over here and just instead of that, because I'm inside backticks, I just need to do this, and I can import that into here. And now I can use variables inside the CSS or inside the component. And that's actually kind of powerful because even though CSS is technically a programming language, it does a lot. It's not very good at actually calculating things. So I put in a string or a 20 here, but I could put in a JavaScript string that comes to a particular value that I want. And in a nutshell, that's how style components work. They're very popular. So even though I'm not a big fan of them, that doesn't mean you shouldn't learn them. You'll probably run into them if you end up using React. It's more than likely you'll use style components inside your React app. unless you get to make the choices, in which case you can do whatever you want. All right.
And why didn't, when you tried to style the link, why didn't that work? Do you have a hunch?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. It should have worked, and it my own fault. I don't always follow my exact script that I tested when I set up the lesson, and I kind of went off script a little bit, and I thought, oh, this will work, and it didn't work, and I feel bad, but it should have worked. I should be able to run a styled component on another React component. Let me show you actually somewhere where I've done that.
So
Again.
John, the styles that we will declare in this style component will have the highest priority, like for that.
So yes, so it's technically added as in the style tag for the element. So let's do an inspect on this, and you'll see that this, oh no, it's just given as a normal class. I'm sorry, I was wrong. So it's treated as a class. So if you remember the specificity, a class is worth 1. Class is 1, ID is 100. There, yeah, I remember. I have to go back and look at my specificity notes.
Got it.
John,
So if you suppose,
Sorry, Jang, you want to?
yeah, I was just saying, if we declare any styles outside with the more specificity, that will override these ones.
It would override these ones, and that would just cause mayhem and havoc, right? Matter of fact, I just spoke with a junior dev who used style components and CSS and something else, and no, use one of them. I don't care which one, but use one, because otherwise nobody's going to know how this thing was styled in the first place. Remember, you are not coding for yourself right now. You're coding for the poor sap who has to go back to the code in 3 years when you are no longer working on that project. And that poor sap might even be you. So you're going to look at, what the heck did I write here? That happens to me all the time. So let me just show you where it did work. Again, this is another project that I'm being paid to do. And here is a styled component. So I've got this styled grid toolbar container, and I am just styling the grid toolbar container. So the grid toolbar container came to me with styles already associated with it. Normally I could just go and directly change those styles, but in this case, I didn't want to touch the styles because they came from outside of my project. It came from a package. Speaking of which, let's take a 10-minute and we will deal with Material UI at 1/4 after. So take a break.
Hey, John,
Yeah,
I had a quick question. When you showed the React dev tools in your browser for
Yep.
our sample app, it showed a lot of elements that were, or a lot of components that were .provider, I think, or something.
yeah, that's part of the context. So you've
Oh, that's
actually,
context.
yeah, so you've got a context provider and you've got a context consumer. Basically, those are created when you use context. So when you set up use context, that is how it works behind the scenes.
Okay, so consumer and provider.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Excellent questions.
So I'm eating here. That's why I have the camera.
That is quite all right.
You don't want to see that.
I am all good. I haven't billed since February. Huh. I must like doing this, Todd. I'm not getting paid. I should get paid.
You're not checking your pay stubs?
Well, I'm a contractor, so I have to bill them. And I got to, wow. I've got to, here. Hold on while I brag.
Send them one big bill.
I will. I have to be able to pay for this, $5 grand.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at some jobs, do they provide you with equipment, or do you pretty much always bring your own?
Most jobs will provide you with equipment. The
Okay.
company I'm working for has a use your own device
Right.
plan that is optional. So they provide me with, I think it's $75 a month
Oh,
so I can use my own hardware.
oh, very cool.
but the great thing about it is, you know, if I end up leaving for whatever reason, I still get to keep my $5,000 laptop. So
Yeah, exactly.
because it's mine.
Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Mhm. It still smells new. Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm just commenting about the policy because I've never heard of this sort of policy before.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Oh, okay, they're trying something new. This is
Mhm.
great. However, I had one of the juniors on my team. They bought a laptop, and their laptop is not up to spec.
Oh, really?
Like I wouldn't code on you know, they don't have enough RAM. They don't have enough like they cheaped out on the CPU.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, are you guys running a lot of like Docker or
yeah.
virtual machines and things like that?
Docker, yeah. So I'm running Docker for my database. I'm running 3 front end and currently one back end, although I'm about to build another back end for an app.
Okay, so how much RAM would you say is
So 16 is minimum.
Mhm.
This I have 32 in.
That's good. So
Yeah,
some room to,
I would recommend that if anybody were to purchase a machine that they plan on coding on today, get 32 gigs of RAM.
right.
At
And-
least 64 is better. 128 is even better, but 32 seems to be the sweet spot. I'm finding that 16 gigs just sometimes doesn't work.
Oh, okay. And do you expect your computer to last you quite a few years?
This computer will last at least, well, my old Mac that is still usable is 6 years old, and I used it up until I got this. So
No way. Okay.
yeah, and you know, it was starting to feel its age,
Mhm.
but it still works. It's still a
Right.
good laptop. I probably could get at least $1,000 for it if I
Oh, wow.
sold it.
Nice.
And they got rid of that stupid touch bar. Thank you, Apple.
Oh, yeah, that was a
I hated that thing.
controversial.
I always give new things a chance, right? Because it's a Facebook problem. Everybody hates Facebook if they change one tiny little thing on Facebook. Everybody complains about it. I always give a new thing a chance because maybe it is better. Maybe they have a good reason for it. The touch bar was so aggravating because I would want to do something and I would accidentally touch the touch bar and all of a sudden like something would happen and no, I didn't mean to do that. Ugh, so frustrating.
Yeah, I don't think I would like that either.
It looked cool, but that's the only thing it did. It looked cool.
Colorful, yeah.
And also, how do you program without an escape key?
Yeah. You make your, yeah, I heard some people made their caps lock their escape key.
Yeah.
I think, but that's, yeah, I
Yeah.
like the caps lock.
So I actually use my caps lock. I don't know if I've shown the class this. 1 second. So here, there is my keyboard, which it's a bit expensive, but this is what I do for a living. And I've remapped a bunch of the keys. So my caps lock is actually my tilde key because I tilde and backtick key because I end up using that a lot. Use it way more than I would caps lock.
That's a QWERTY keyboard. It's just spread out.
Yeah,
for
it's a QWERTY
ergonomics.
keyboard that's spread out. However, here, let me show you something that I'm interested in. I'm actually looking at this keyboard right here. Here, this is a better one. Come on. Yeah, it's called the Ferris sweep. It's minimal, obviously. You have to be a really good touch typist because there ain't no looking at your fingers to figure out what key you're about to hit. And it's a do it yourself kind of project. I was thinking, oh, yay, it'd be kind of fun. I've never like soldered, or I haven't soldered anything since high school. So
Does that mean you can put your own switches on it?
yep. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't buy this. You have to actually go and the Ferris sweep site is actually a GitHub repo. And you have to download all of the files. You have to send the PCB specs to a PCB manufacturer. Yeah, turns out it's not that expensive to create circuit boards though.
Like the modular synth of the keyboard world.
Yeah. There is, just saw a video about somebody who is using, and I don't know how he does it. His keyboard is 16 keys. It's not even enough keys for the letters of the alphabet.
Like going back to flip phone days when you had to like press the key 3 times, you know, depending on what letter you want to send in your text.
I remember my company gave me a BlackBerry, and they gave me the choice of the full-size BlackBerry or the half-size one. I said, give me the half one. I'm never going to use it to send email. Boy, was I a fool. Oh, it was horrible. But that's okay. I'm just complaining today. Just nothing but complaints from me. All right. Okay. Let's get back to stuff. And the stuff we are looking at right now is Material UI. So Material UI, and there's a number of these. Anybody use Bootstrap on a project? Yeah, I'm sure if anybody's used a third-party CSS framework, it's almost certainly going to be Bootstrap. But MUI is actually, this is Material UI, or it's a version of Material UI that's been created that we can use in our apps. And this is actually pretty cool. This is the Google sort of look and feel about your app. And it's actually not too hard. Again, I use Material UI in my day job. So what I'm gonna do is go to the docs, and there you could install it with either Emotion or Style Components. And since I have Style Components installed anyways, I'll use this one. So let's do that. npm install style. So let's come back here. Let's go here. Let's do an npm install MUI/material at MUI styled engine SC. Okay. So once you've installed that, you now have access to all of the CSS components that are available in this particular library. And there are a lot of components. So hold on, bring this open. We'll look at the components. You can see the list down here is very, very long. Keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. So I'll just show you a few of these because it's pretty cool. So how do we do it? Well, first of all, let's come over here and here, go send it back to our green page. I'm kind of digging the green now. All right, so let's make this a little prettier. So how do I do that? All I need to do is import things from Material UI. So here, I'm going to, let's do it right here. Import, and I'm going to import from and I've got to put that in there. Perfect. So first thing I'm going to pull in is a button. Can't. Module not found. Can't resolve emotion react. Okay. Well, fine. Is it slash react? Yes, slash react. I love error pages from what?
John, I think you wrote Buran over there, import Buran, something like, is it supposed to be button?
Yes, but that's not the issue I have right here because I haven't, all right, emotion styled. For some reason, it's making me use the other one. So, or emotion is basically style components. It's sort of like the bootstrap to MUI for style components. All right, so I've got the button now that I've fixed it. All right, so let's create a button. So I'm going to go inside this Attr container. And it's actually quite easy to make this pretty cool. You know what? I am going to put the button here. Right, so I'm going to create this button. Notice it's uppercase button because I'm imported it from Material UI. And I'm going to change the links below to buttons. And what I'm going to do is say slash nurse. And then we'll just say and we'll do the same for doctors. Alt Shift F is your friend. There we go. All right, and because I never get rid of anything until I'm absolutely sure I don't need it. Let me just comment that out. There we go. I have these buttons, and if you actually have a look, all right, the page is reloading because that's the standard. Is it reloading? So let's get rid of my favorite background color, just so we could see it. So already you can see that we are starting to look a little better, right? I've replaced the links with buttons. Okay, so let's actually take this entire page, and instead of saying outer container, I'm just going to put it inside a container because I know that container is another. And now you see it's been given nice margins and it has a maximum width. And there's a lot of these. So you can do all sorts of layouts. Let me show you actually another really cool layout if I can get it to work. Let me get that app started, and I'll show you a fully MUI'd app. MUI'd, is that a thing now? Sure, it's a thing. Okay, so we can do all sorts of cool things with the CSS. Is this working yet? I'm actually quite proud of this if it works. If it doesn't work, I'm not proud anymore. There we go. So this here is all built with MUI. This is a, I'm getting paid to build this. This is a dashboard for an insurance company app. So, and down here, all of this down here is a data grid. Again, it's a component inside Material UI. We've got filtering. We can turn on and off company grouping. Don't worry, this is all fake data. And you can export it into a CSV, you can print it, you can do a search for company name.
Did the company provide you with fake data, or did you have to make it yourself?
I created my own fake data. It was just easier for me to do that. So I used to go to Faker.js, dev. Oh, somebody's taken it over. So yeah, the person who ran this site went a little crazy and turned it off one day, despite it being used by like 1 billion developers. Yeah, it was quite an interesting couple weeks where, where's Faker? I need fake data. So there's a bunch of other places you can go. Fake data is easy to create. Right. So yeah. So this is all built. So these are cards. This is a button. Even all this. Let's see more buttons. My silly avatar photo. Not all of it's functional yet, but you can see how far you can go with Material UI. All right. So I'm a big fan, actually. It's Material UI does create its own components, but if you use them sparingly, it's actually quite interesting. All right. I'm just having a look at the list of things that I needed to touch. Right. So that one, that one, that one. It is 2:30 and I have run out of subjects that I put on my list to teach you today. So here's something I could show you. This is actually pretty cool. So these buttons here, they look okay, right? They're not great, but they're real buttons. And they look like Google buttons. They do the whole cool, like, you know, splash thing when you click on them, even depending on where in the button you click on it. But it's actually super easy to also put in an icon. So let me show you how easy it is. So all you need to do is you need to install the library, of course. And that is called at MUI/icons-material. And it takes a moment to install. And then I can come up here. I can add in And it turns out I can't import. It looks Dutch. Okay. No shade on anybody who happens to be Dutch. It just looked like a Dutch word to me. All right, so now I've got these, and so now I can pull in different icons, and it's actually quite kind of fun. So for instance, let's bring in medical services. I can spell. Rounded. And I'm also going to bring in and then I can come down here. I can just say start icon equals, and this should look familiar. Just put in the component. So let's put in medical services rounded slash there, and we'll say and all I need to do is save that, and once it refreshes in a moment, come on. Sure. Now you decide to go all funky. What's happening over here? Oh, I've got an error. What's the error? Field browser doesn't contain a start icon equals. What did I break? Not found. Can't resolve material icons. Okay, so that's the problem. Did I probably typoed it. Oh, what did I do over here in my practice app? At NUI/icons material. Oh, right, because I'm an idiot. It helps if you get the name in the right order. And make sure it's compiling. Come on, no errors, no errors. And it's refreshing. Everything's running super slow. Normally I turn off all of my work stuff because it takes up a lot of my resources. I didn't today. Here, let's just refresh that. Sure, lie to me, make me look like a fool. Ah, da, 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 da. Let me just copy and paste, make sure I'm not lying. Error in right. Errors. Okay, yeah, that is definitely a problem. I could not be a developer if it weren't for the error messages that I get from, and it's still not showing up. I am disappointed. It's normally that should work. Bringing in all of that. Let me just once again copy here. Well, I will. Life is not happy. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Check the documentation for Material UI. There is literally a ton of really good information here, and it makes your app look amazing without actually all that much effort. Normally, if you're working on a team, you're going to have a specialist UI UX person, but not always. If you're on a very small team, or if you decide to go to work for yourself, you have to come up with your own designs. And using things like Material UI makes you, I don't know what's going on, makes it look like you're a really cool designer when all you have to do is add in a few tags from the documentation. Look at that page I created. That looks amazing, right? None of it was me. I ain't a great designer. I like the color badass, so. Okay, any questions? Concerns, death threats, anything?
Yeah, for the button component,
Yeah.
how would you like turn off the default for that, like the event default, if you're using something like that instead?
Right. So normally you can just put in an on-click method on those buttons. So this isn't actually, I thought it was reloading the page, but is it? Now I'm confused. It is reloading the page. Well, we can do something like this. We can do on click equals, and then all we need to do is put in, it's got to be a capital C. Right, and O-click there. On click equals E dot event. And there we go. So now, in theory, well, I have no idea why this doesn't love me anymore. Let me stop it and restart it. It was loving me for a while. Something is already running. Yeah, sure, that's fine. 2002. Oh, now the icons decide to show up. Great. All I need to do is restart. So the nurse page now, I've put that on click. That all it's doing is preventing the default reload the page. The buttons are by default inside a form element inside this library. So if you check the documentation, it tells you how to bypass the normal form use. So yeah, if you just put this on click and then put in the event.prevent default, and just put it on the second one. This page that doesn't love me. The other page is fine. All right. And there we go. We are no longer, and now this isn't routing to, oh, because, all right, I'd have to check the documentation. So MUI button prevent reload. There we go. No, don't ever go to code grepper. Here's the problem. There, closed bug tickets. So here we go. Handle event. All right, there's documentation here on how to get it fixed, how to fix that. Normally, you would just use a link element anyways. Matter of fact, it's probably MUI. Here, let's do back here. MUI link. There we go. So I should probably use something like this, which is the proper element to use. And link component equals button. There we go. On click console.info, I'm a button. And it gives you more detail down here. All the different things you can put on a link. So really, I should put in a link with a, use the button variant of the link. And that would solve my problems.
Okay, thank you.
No worries, no worries. The thing about developing, I run into as many problems as you do. I really do. The difference though is that I can recover from them quickly because I've run into these sorts of problems before, so I know what to look for. So once you start Googling like a pro, then you're a senior developer. All right, my friends. Unless there are other questions.
Just why avoid code grepper?
I don't like code grepper. Code grepper, what code grepper does is it's an algorithm goes out and looks for people's questions and then pulls in the answers from other places. So most likely it's coming from somebody's question on, for instance, Stack Overflow, and it's just pulling it into code grepper. And in my opinion, the quality of the answers is never very good. So Stack Overflow in general is a good place to go. There's at least a lot of discussion. There's usually more than one answer underneath it. So you can look and see what different people have suggested. Best is to look at the documentation though, for what it is you're working on and try and figure out on your own what is going on. It's funny, I'm looking directly at you, but it looks like I'm looking to the side. I am looking directly at you when I'm here. There we go. All right, my friends, that is it for today.
Thanks, John.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Rails next week.
Thanks very much.
I'm excited.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hey, John, would you have a couple of minutes to look over an issue I've been having?
I have 12 minutes until I have to go back to my real job, but sure, yeah. I'll
Yeah,
have a look.
if you're free, yeah.
I am, well, I'm being paid to to do it. So yeah, I guess I'm free.
Okay, awesome.
What's going on, TJ?
It's very much in the context of what we're talking about. I'm
Great.
currently working in I'm just building a portfolio in React,
Good man.
just to kind of get some practice with forms
Yeah.
and you know, just working around with props. I'm having one very small problem, and I've spent the last 2-3 hours trying to work out a solution. I can't find it.
Right. Right.
I
Okay.
was wondering if you could have
I
one.
would be more than happy to have a look. I just oh, there we go. I have to just here. Let me stop this.
Okay.